Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So if it's only a video session, how will you do that?
Oh, yes, sir. So we will be stuck up like once we stuck somewhere, so the training will stop there itself. We
Okay.
cannot go further until that issue gets resolved.
So
So it's like
so
that.
let's continue for today. Okay. So we come to our day 7 session for AWS Essential. This is our 7th session now, and hopefully you are enjoying this all these sessions, whether offline or whether online. Okay. Uh, the agenda for today is network content overview continuation will be there. Okay, just a second. Network content overview continuation will be there. So I may extend one more session for this VPC because I don't because next sessions are storage and IAM. 2 days for storage. So I think so we can cover storage and IAM within those 2 sessions. So we'll extend one more session for this VPC tomorrow. Okay, discussing on CloudFront and Route 53. So yesterday, what we did was we checked what is shared tenancy, okay, and what is dedicated host, dedicated instances, and then we had AWS Network Content Delivery Network. Like we discussed about virtual, we introduced AWS Network Content Delivery. Then a key important component of network content delivery is VPC, Virtual Private Network. Okay, we saw we saw what is default to VPC and what is custom VPC. Okay, we understood some key components of VPC like subnets, okay, route tables, internet gateway, okay, and then we had a hands-on lab creating a public-private subnet where we created a public we created a VPC. Under that VPC, we created a public subnet and we created a private subnet, and we attached an internet gateway to the VPC to get internet connection. Then we launched in public customs VPC subnet, and so today we'll be checking how to connect those things, right? So just a second. So I'm switching back to my. So this is what we did yesterday, right? We did similar to this. So what we did yesterday, we under AWS, we selected non-Virginia region. Okay, we created an VPC. We gave an VPC that fires.vpc. And when you do a practice, you give your name dash VPC 0102 and so on. Okay, and then we under this VPC we choose the CIDR 10.0.0.16. Okay. Then we launched and we created a subnet, a public subnet, okay, and we created a private subnet. Public subnet we created for our web servers, okay, and private subnet assuming that we'll be using our database instance over there, okay. So public subnet we wanted to connect over the internet, so our user should be able to connect these web servers over the internet, okay. It should connect to internet also, and the users also vice versa should connect to this web servers. But private subnet, we don't want to have direct connection of internet to our DB server. Okay. So we specified then when the subnet range for subnet 1, that is 10.10.1.0/24. That means 254. In a real-time scenario, it will be 251 hosts will be available. Okay, and we'll have we had to 10.0.2.0 where we'll have 251 hosts also, which is a 20.subnet, and this is 10.subnet. So the IP that we gave when we launched the instance, we gave 1.5, and for DB instance we get 2.5. We attached an internet gateway to the public subnet to this VPC, okay, to allow internet connections. And we create apart from the main table, okay, where when you say main table, you will have connective when as soon as you create an VPC, your root table and your NACL will be created. So these two subnets will be attached, associated with this main table. So these two by default can communicate with each other, right? Internally. And then we created a public route to allow this associate this public to that particular public allow this public subnet to connect with my internet gateway and public routing. So until now we are fine.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So just to go into the console. Okay. So this is what we created yesterday. Okay. My screen is visible to everybody, right?
Yes, sir. It's visible.
So I had my Linux web public, I had my Linux private. Okay. And where did I do all those stuffs and is under VPC. Whatever we explained, we did it in under VPC. So when you do it custom, use first custom so you understand what is what you are creating, okay, and then once you understood the concepts, okay, you can delete and you can use launch. You can create a VPC by using launch VPC wizard. So I'm coming to my EC2 again, okay, and I'm if you see over here, it's giving me the public IP address. Why it's giving me? We have auto assigned the public IP address for this subnet also. Okay, yesterday we saw, right? And this public IP is dynamic in nature. It will not be the same for it has some duration that it can be. Once that duration is over, it will issue any other IP address, public IP address. So let's I copied this. Okay, now and whenever you create the instance, the two things you have to take care of. Okay, one is that whenever you create an instance, have a specific security group. Okay, if it's only a public web server, if you have multiple public web servers, you can use the same security group. Okay, you cannot use the same security group for the private one. And second thing, whenever you create an key pair, okay, do download and save it on your hard disk or on your storage device, okay, and give a logical name to it. So whenever you want to, mostly when you go for a Linux instance, you will require this key pair. Even for Windows, as you saw, we have to decrypt the password, right? So there also will be requiring those things. So whenever you have, whenever you do stuffs, you always have an habit of saving those. There are three things that you need to save. One is the key pair. One is whenever we create a new this thing account, be sure to save your security credentials like your access ID and secret key, where it will be used for during CLI. Okay. So let's I'll just show you again how to connect once more so that. So already, I had a PM file. When I download a key pair, and it's only for the Linux instance. Okay, when I do that, this terminal, that SSH terminal which I am using, PuTTY, it uses PPK files. So for that, I need to generate the private. So I've already just you have to load and give the location of the PM file like this. Okay, and then save it as a private key. I have saved it Linux web private PPK. So this already I have done it. So I am not going much on that. I'll come over here under putty session. I'll go to SSH. First thing, I'll go to auth. I will first say that which is my PPK file. I'll load that PPK file over here. So it comes to know that, okay, this is what the private key file is for the authentication purpose. Okay. So I'll come over here. I'll say ec2-user at the public key that I have copied from the instance. So once you do that, we are able to connect to my, this is my public server. How can I identify it? By the IP address also, 10.0.1.5. Okay. Now, because in my book, right, many things, there are some scripts or some commands that you need to run for the demos, okay, or for a hands-on practice. So normally in Linux, right, we don't use root access is a separate this thing, right? So if you see, if you are getting this part like tilt this thing, that means you don't have root access. So to do that, right, what it says sudo. You can always type commands this thing, but you have to use this command sudo. Okay, if you don't have any access, if you don't have any root access to it. So sudo pass wd. This will ask you to change your password to the root. So I'm giving an password. Okay, and then I'll say su root. It'll ask for me password, and then you can say from the tilt this thing, I'm now getting the EC2 user, and I am the administrative user. In production environment, they don't use they normally use sudo and or have an access or give a password to if they want to use, they do give the password to accordingly. Okay, this is what yeah.
Sorry, here we are giving the password. This is which password, sir? Like we are randomly creating the password.
Yeah, password of the Linux operating system.
Okay, so we have to assign it, or we are getting it from Amazon, like
no. We can assign it. I have
just like any Gmail ID, we give a password. We have to give like that.
Similar. Why? Okay. Because now I am getting access to my instance, but under the instance, okay.
Yes, sir.
Whose responsibility?
Yes, our responsibility, the end user responsibility.
Yes. The end user responsibility. What about shared responsibility concept?
That Amazon, one key will be with Amazon and one key will be with
that is a public key that is for the authentication purpose. Just the secured authentication purpose. But once I get to the access to my OS, it is my responsibility, right? So it is
your responsibility.
So
this password, first time when we open this, we have to give the password, and that we have to remember that this is our EC2.
Or else, if you don't do that, then you have to always whatever commands you see in my book, right? I have given directly using the root account. Okay.
Okay, sir.
If you don't want to do this, then every time you have to use sudo.
Sudo password. Okay.
Yeah. Not sudo password. Any command after sudo. You have to give here the command is that to change the password, right? Okay.
Okay, sir.
But I have to give sudo to give the administrative rights to it.
Administrative root. Okay.
This is the Linux commands, right? So this is why. But in my book, I have normally to avoid the sudo this thing, right? I have always log in as root account. So this is related to Linux.
Okay, sir. Fine.
So we saw, now I'm able to access the public this thing. But what about the your private? Okay. Now let's see private. Now if you see private, it doesn't have any access to the internet. So I will not get the public IP address over here. So how can I connect those? How can I connect? I cannot assign an internet gateway to a private this thing because I don't want it. Okay. And I have what availability I have? I have only the private IP address. So there is some other way to connect to my private IP address. Like I'm using PuTTY to connect my public this thing. I'll use SSH connection. Okay, using this instance or using the Cloud Shell. So let's see how we do that. Okay. I'm not already I have explained in the book, but I'll explain you what is required. Okay. So this is already explained, right? Grab the IP, ensure you're setting convert, load the private key, and this can be referred in page 30 of your reference book. So now how to access my private instance? So I cannot directly connect the instance via PuTTY as public IP not available. Okay. So I can connect the DB instance over the public instance using SSH. Okay. So let's see, or else I can use. I have not used Cloud Shell to connect this thing, but when you practice, initially you follow this book using the public IP to a public instance to connect to the private instance, or else, and if you are successful, then you use try using Cloud Shell also. But I think so there may be some issues with that. I have not tried it because Cloud Shell was not available when I wrote the book. So it's page number 55. Okay. So we have already launched this thing, right? Launched the private IP, and you see over here that yesterday I gave that I provided ICMP 10.0. So that I can ping my 10.20 network from this public IP. Okay. And I no, always give a valid or recognizable key pair this thing, but this may be required, right? Like I'm saying DB server KP is nothing but a DB key pair of the DB server. So we know the issues that we cannot directly connect the DB instance through PuTTY because it will refuse the connection. You can try this, but it will say it will refuse the connection. Okay? You cannot connect it to the private IP. So for this, what is required, because we use public key and private key for authentication purpose. Okay, the PM file needs to be installed in my public instance. Okay, so for that, there is a how can I do that in Linux? I'm talking about Linux. Okay. Even for in Windows also we will have the same issue, but over there will be some other tools to copy those PM files on the public instance. So for Linux, okay, I use a WinSCP client. You can download this WinSCP client from here. Okay, then you will require to connect the web server to transfer DB server PM to the public key. The steps are already mentioned in this link. You can go through it. So now my server public IP is what? 10.0.1.5, and I have username EC2, and I have an private key for that public web server is this web server.ppk file. Okay. So I'll be connecting now. Connect your desktop with AWS EC2 WinSAP, and once I do this, right, I will connect this tool, this WinSAP tool, with my public instance over the internet. Okay. So here I need to specify the PPK file, or else it will not allow me to authenticate. So transfer the database file to this thing. This is the root home user. So on the root on this directory, I will transfer the file. You can see I can transfer the file. All the steps are mentioned in this link also, if you can follow. And now connect with the AWS web instance as a root user. Once I do this, I'll go back to my putty session of my public instance. Okay, navigate to home EC2 type ls. Okay, and then I say connect the private database. So what is my private database IP? That is 10.0.2.5. So I'll give this command on the public instance from 10.0 on this public instance. And now you can see when I say enter, after this DB server KP PM file is available. Here, I don't have to convert the PM to PPK. It is already done by Linux. So you just upload the PM file on this. Okay. And you can see over here, I'll be connected to my private subnet, private or my DB instance. Got it? So this is the reference link. I'll just show you with the reference link is there with me. That you can refer that reference link for your let me check whether I have copied it over there. Okay, not. You can always you can check the reference link over there. So that will be showing me now you know how to connect to my private instance. Any issues over here? Suppose I use this command, right? Now I have not done the WinSAP and other part over there, right? So let's check. If you go for this, you can always click here and say restart session. Okay. I'll say sudo test 23. If I say SSHI, I have not copied the file over here, and say SSHI, I'll say EC2 user at 10.0.2.5. And 0.2.5. I think so. I'm missing something. Okay. Instead of this, I will say okay, 10.0.2.5. It should show me. Just before this lecture, it was working for me. I think so. I'm missing something. Normally, when we try this command, right, it will ask me the passwords or not. So, in my previous this thing, when I was just practicing it, it showed me, but I said no, not to continue. So I think so. It's not working on this part. But when you try yourself, you can try just using this, but it will not allow you, right? Because it has to go through this process. Am I clear? Yes, no.
Sir, clear, sir.
So now we saw, right, how to connect. I'll just post this because in my this thing, right, it's an screenshot. I will not be able to copy this, okay, but I'll post it in my resource links or on the WhatsApp. So now the thing is that, suppose I'm now connected to my private this thing, and will I require internet to download the patches for the server or any services? I'll require it, right? So, but I cannot I cannot give an internet. I cannot attach an internet gateway to my private instance. So, what is the workaround for it? So here we there are two components that one of the components can be used. It is known as NAT gateway or NAT instance. Okay, so just let's see what is NAT first. Now, NAT is network address translation. If you may have you can recollect it from your network this thing if they are gone through, right? So NATing, right? So what is NATing actually? Well, now I am connected. Now I am at my home. Okay, I am connected to my connected to internet or a Wi-Fi geo router. Okay, so and I am connected to my laptop. I'm connected to my iPhone. My other members of the house are connected to their devices. Okay. Now we say that IP, when we say private and public IP, right? So it is IPv4 address that may, when you say 2 raised to 32, so it can give you an account of this many networks and unlimited networks and this thing. So if every public IP is given to this device, okay, you will get short of the public IP, right? So how can all the other though your IPv6 is in use now, but you will have an resource blockage for that IPv4 device, right? So for that we use network address translation. It's a normal term, right? What will happen is we'll have private IPs given to this, like it a range. Like when I set up a router, it will give there is a private IP given to my router. Like for example, 1.0/24 subnet, and my the gateway IP it is be 10.1. Okay, and those ranges will be given to my other devices through over the Wi-Fi or physical connection to the router. It will be 10.1.0.1, 10.0.1.2, not 1 because it is already given, 1.2, 1.3, 1.4, and so on. Okay, and and then when all the requests over the internet comes to the router from these devices, it will connect through a single public IP address. So it is used for your public IP conservance. Okay, and it will be only one-way direction, right? When your internet wants to connect it, there will be some other means to connect it, right? Okay, or it can be spoofed through your internet and this thing. But in a real-time scenario, it is only one-way direction. The reverse way is not possible. Am I clear? Yes, no?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So similarly, I require access to internet for my patches, for my services to upload, or any required to that DB instance, right? So here I will be installing a NAT gateway or a NAT instance. Okay, I'll install, and where I can install this NAT gateway, it has to be located in my public. If it's a gateway, it will be coming here. If it's an instance, has to be it has to be located in my public subnet. Okay, and then with the internal connections, okay, the DB server will be connected to the NAT instance or a NAT gateway and connect to the internet for downloading the patches or downloading services and other things. But user cannot access the DB. Got it point? I can only have one-way direction, one-way traffic. Am I clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So we have already talked about subnets, public subnet, network interfaces, route table, okay, internet gateway. So this is what we talked about: NAT gateways and NAT instances. Device to enable device in the private subnet to connect to the internet. For example, software updates or other AWS services. Right. So to NAT gateway, to create a NAT gateway, you must specify the public subnet in which NAT gateway should reside. So AWS recommends NAT gateways as they provide availability and bandwidth over NAT instances. So there are two ways to connect it. One is the NAT gateway, and one we have an NAT instance available in the community AMI called as NAT AMI. We can install it and install it through EC2. It's an EC2 instance, okay, and then we can connect it to. But the best way to use NATing is to use NAT gateway, because it will give you better availability and bandwidth. Okay, so just to show you over here. I've already created a NAT instance over here. Okay, if I was able to connect to the this thing, I will be able to connect your internet and other stuffs. Right. So how I did that, I will go to launch instance, come to community AMI, and type out NAT AMI. Okay. So you can see NAT HVM is there, hardware virtual machine. It's a fully virtualized this thing. So I will select the first one. Similar things what you do on your but here when I say NAT instance, right, I will select the VPC and I will select the public subnet, because it has to place in the public subnet. Got my point? Rest is default, no changes to be done. Okay, unless you want a shared tenancy or something like that. Go to add storage. I'm keeping it as default. Next tags, because I have already done this. Just for your reference, I'm providing it. I can use the existing. So Osman, if you see over here, even you have two options over: create a new security group and create a existing. So here I can use the existing security group like my public SG. So when I say public subnet, I have to, because I have already assigned a security group of public, so I'll be using this. Okay, and when say you launch This is because I don't have my free tier is expired, right? So I'm getting this message. So when I'll be asked for my key pair. I've already installed it, right? So when I asked for a key pair, I selected the existing one. Okay. But for you, Usman, you can create a new key pair also. So I'm just canceling this. That's taking too much time, I think so. Okay. I've already installed the NAT instance and it's running on my mistake. So when you go to the NAT instance, okay, you'll see the public IP assigned to it. It is giving me 238 related to my public subnet. Okay. And we can see what there is one more setting, a small setting needs to be done over here. So I'll just refer this one. So in my book, everything is mentioned. Okay, but on the conceptual part, I have explained you what it is, right? Just come here. I did this part. Okay. So here the thing is that if this is a NAT instance, you must stop source destination checking. So where can a NAT instance must be able to send receive traffic when the source and destination is not itself. Okay. So I'll come to this part. Somewhere it will give me the source destination. I didn't check this part actually. So why? So how to do that? In security or somewhere it will give me that it's enabled. If I get that, I will surely. So what to do for that? I have to go into the national actions and change source destination check. Okay. What I have to check is I have to stop. I have to select stop and save. Okay. So I select this. I say actions. Maybe instance settings. Not here. Yeah. In the networking section, you can say change node. So I think so. I may get those that over here. Source destination check. Okay. Just 6. Anyways, I'll go to, I'll select the instance. I'll go to actions, instance settings, sorry, networking, and I'll say change source destination check. So it says each instance source and destination checks by default, and means it by itself it says the source, and the instance must be the source or destination. This is all. This settings is only required for NAT instance. Okay. Sorry. And you can always do the same thing by the CLI command. You can copy this and then say stop, say save. So maybe here, if I see, it should show me. I'll just check where it shows and I'll update you accordingly. Okay, so this is only a small setting needs to be done, and then from the once you connect to your private IP, you can just ping to www.google.com or 8.8. That is a public IP, and you'll see that you are able to before this or before using NAT gateway, you will not be able to do this connect to the internet from the private IP. Okay, so you have to use NAT instance or a NAT gateway. So similar for the, suppose in case, so for NAT gateway, I have to come to VPC. I come down, I scroll down, and under the first section itself, virtual private cloud, you'll find NAT gateway. It's a create gateway. It will ask me to create a name to this. What subnet? So which subnet I'll select?
Private.
The public, right? Because NAT, when you say NAT gateway in AWS, it's always located in public. Okay, and give the NAT this thing, and it will allocate me an elastic IP automatically, or you can say allocate. You can an IP will be allocated to this. So now when you delete the NAT gateways and this thing, always remember to check the elastic IP for associations, because it is chargeable. Okay. So yes, I'm not right now. I'm not using any this thing, but over here, if you delete all those stuffs, okay, and still you say elastic IP, do deassociate and delete it, or deassociate. Okay, or else this is chargeable. Okay, it will charge you per day, per hour, or something like that. So every settings has been provided in the book. What we did with NAT gateway. So you can do both practices, right? First you install the NAT instance, check it out, delete the NAT instance, and try the NAT gateway. But once you do it, do check to deassociate your. So if you see over here, once I do the NAT gateway part, I did the screenshot is already what commands I provided for to check the connection. So you can see I was able to ping the global this thing after doing that. Okay. Am I clear?
Yes, sir. Okay. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So now we know about VPC, we know about subnets, we know about truth tables. There is one more. Now let's see what is security and groups and this thing, right? We have already created lots of security groups, like we did it yesterday. We created a public, Linux public, this thing. Okay. So what is a security group? It acts as a firewall for the instance. Okay. So for any EC2 instance, it will act as a firewall for firewall. So whatever inbound, whatever traffic needs to pass needs to be mentioned at the time of creating the instance. So you will have inbound rules. Okay, these are all allowed rules, right? You can allow the rules like HTTP 80. I have allowed SSH 22. Outbound rules, all traffics are allowed. Okay, so normally we say security group as a stateful firewall. Okay, it's stateful in nature, where because it keeps all the tracks of its connection states. Okay, and in security group you cannot delete anything. You can only allow. So whatever you allow over here, automatically outbound rules will, because all the traffic is allowed right over here. So that's the reason you can say it has its connection state, so it's in stateful in nature. Similarly, in network ACLs, you can see the new ACL for the VPC. This is the default VPC, this default network ACL having 6 runways for North Virginia version. Okay. So if I click over here I can manually define. Okay. Here allow and deny can be possible. So whatever I do, my inbound and outbound will not be the same. Okay, I can define it. Okay, whether deny, allow, or this thing. So when we talk about NACLs, NACL, a network access control list, okay, and it is normally used in your layer 3 of OSI, okay, access control list, okay, on routers and other things. These things normally these are applied on subnet level, okay, where are it associated with? Subnet. So where is security groups associated with? Instance. Let's see, VPC ID, you can see your details. Security group, permission IDs, VPC ID. These are actually associated with instances, and NACLs are associated with subnets. Security groups are stateful in nature. Network ACLs are stateless in nature. So let's see what do I mean by that. I saw that elastic IP is a static IP address. Okay. The advantage of associating elastic IP address with the network interface is instead of directly with the instance, it is that you can move all the attributes of the network interface from one instance to another in a single step. So, when I was giving the IP addresses to particular thing, I started with 10.0.1.5 or 10.0.2.5. Why I did that? Because my 00 and 0.255 will be not be in use. Okay, this will be used for network address. This will be used for broadcast address. My 0.1 will be used for the VPC router. My 2 will be reserved by IP address for DNS server and other things. 2 and 3 will be reserved. So I had to start either with 4 or 5. Got it? So we talk about security groups, right? A fundamental base of network security group acts as a firewall for your EC2 instances. Security groups control how traffic is allowed. Network access control list is a optional layer of security for your VPC. So if you see this diagram, if it's visible to you. Okay. This is diagram. You have instances, you have firewalls for the instances, like security groups are mentioned. And for each subnet, we have network ACLs. So these are important components of VPC. So what is security group? Operates at the instance level, operates at the subnet level, supports, allows rules only, supports, allows rules and deny rules only. They are stateful in nature. When we say stateful, return traffic is automatically allowed regardless by any rules. When we say stateless, return traffic must be explicitly allowed by rules. So inbound and outbound has to be defined. Here, whatever you define on inbound, outbound, all the traffic is allowed. So we evaluate all rules before deciding whether to allow traffic. We process rules. We evaluate all rules. We process rules in number order. If you have seen 100, 200, and so on, right? So the priority levels are there. Applies to an instance only if someone specifies the security group when launching the instance or associates security group. Automatically applies to all instances in the subnet. It is associated to. Am I clear now? Okay. So there are some, best practices to use VPC also. Okay. One of the best practices, you can say, select the right architecture. Okay. Best practices. I can say so best practices start at foundation level. So select the right architecture. It is advisable to design your Amazon VPC. VPC is very, very important when you design your cloud architecture in AWS. Okay. So implementation based on your expansion requirements, looking ahead at least 2 years. So your design should have an expansion level of at least 2 years. Select whichever config best suits for your organization needs from various public and private VPC, public facing VPC, the setup types, okay, Amazon VPC and software based VPN access and so on. So choose CIDR, like you cannot choose /8. So if you are using only 251 hosts, okay, depending on if you know that next 2 years I'll be using the network and the host level up to 250 to 500 this thing. So because what mask level you will be providing by default, suggested is starts from /16 and goes from 28. Okay, the you have to take security under consideration also. If you have lots of hosts available, okay, you may have get a chance, a hacker can use those unused IP address to hack you. So isolated VPC environment, physical isolation which is present in on-premise environment allows better to create a distinct Amazon VPC for development and production. One Amazon VPC with separate security, subnets, isolated, and so on. So security, running a machine with mission critical workloads, multiple layers of security, okay, and then we have VPC limits. So these are important, 5 VPCs per region. It supports 5 VPCs. You can have 5 VPCs per region. You can always have multiple VPCs created. 200 subnets per VPC, 200 route tables per VPC, 2,500 security groups per VPC, 60 inbound rules, 5 internet gateways per region, 5 NAT gateways per availability zone, and you can have this is for the IPv6 part, address only IP, 5 internet gateways per region and 5 elastic IP addresses per region. You can have up to 5 elastic IP addresses per region. Am I clear until now?
Yes, sir. Clear until now.
Yeah. So now we talked about everything, but we didn't talk about pricing. So no additional charges for creating and using the VPC itself. Okay, but there are some charges, right? Usage charges for other Amazon Web Services, including Amazon EC2. If you can connect your VPC to your corporate data center using the optional hardware VPN connection, pricing is per VPN connection per hour. Okay, the amount of time you have a VPN connection and data transferred over VPN connection will be charged. So we have an AWS document to just say VPC pricing. Okay, I'll share this link to you. Okay, so you can have there are some different pricing, right? You can have site-to-site VPN connection pricing is the Amazon VPC reachability. There is a tool for your analyzer. There is some pricing, and it's region-based. Okay, region-based. Amazon and charges you each time you analyze connectivity. So if you are using to analyze your traffic, it is chargeable. Okay. There is a term called private link that I will be coming shortly. You have traffic mirroring. Okay, you have ingress routing, network gateway pricing is there. Okay, so gateway in your VPC are charged for each network gateway per hour. Okay. So it depends. It differs region to region. Okay, the pricing differs region to region. So you have then network gateway hourly, network gateway, NAT gateway is hourly charged, NAT gateway is data processing, data transfer charges is there. That is standard EC2 data transfer charge. 1 GB to data was transferred from EC2 to S3 via the NAT gateway. There was no charge for the data transfer from EC2 instance to S3. So as it is data transfer out. So I'll just show you this thing in a while. Okay. So when I talk about data transfer charge, right? I had an you can see the data transfer cost. Okay, so you can see over here the orange link and the outbound and the inbound is blue. So inbound traffic is typically free. You will have all the inbound traffic connected to your AWS services will be free. Okay, outbound traffic costs are shown per transmission. So per transmission you will have that cost. So direct inbound cost, you have outbound cost will be, and then region to region traffic is there. Okay, it is all region specific, right? CloudFront will be talking tomorrow. Okay. Cross AC2, AZ, EC2, this thing. So I'll share this thing on your WhatsApp group. So just so you see, you have features available, but there are lots of hidden charges also, right? So, but the thing is that you should be aware of it. Okay, so when you design this thing, it's not that you are missing this the cost factor in, because everything what you do in cloud, your company is asking you for cost optimization. Okay, what is the benefit? One part of it is saving the cost by rightly designing your architecture, and second, cost benefits you can give the features available uh, 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 compared to our on-premise data center. Am I clear?
Yes, sir.
So just I'll close this window. Just there are some few components that we'll talk about just on a high level. Okay. So we talked about VPC. You know, there are API gateway, CloudFront, and Group 223. I'll be talking tomorrow. AWS and Direct Connect is Direct Connect is there, right? So if you see over here, you will we talked about subnets, route tables, internet gateways. DHCP option set is for your DHCP for assigning automatic IPs and other things. Okay. Then elastic IPs, and we see here called this thing called endpoints. Okay, so what is an endpoint actually? In a scenario, right, where you want an you want a connection of your instances not to the internet but to an AWS service. Okay, so you don't want to get all those data transfer charges applicable whenever you connect to your AWS service also. So for that reason, you know, we use VPC endpoint. So enables private connections enables private connections between your VPC and supported AWS services and VPC endpoint. So when you say private connections, right, your data transfer charges are being saved off. Okay. But this is where when we connect to a particular AWS service. Okay. So and it uses AWS Private Link for that. So AWS Private Link is a technology that enables you to privately access services by using private IP addresses. So you don't use public IP addresses over here. So you save the cost for elastic IP. You save the cost for your data this thing and other things. So traffic between your VPC and the other services does not leave the Amazon network. So a VPC endpoint does not require an internet gateway, virtual private network gateway, NAT. So you save all these things, right, to do that. But where can I use this? VPC endpoints are virtual devices. They are horizontally scaled, redundant, and highly available VPC components. So if we want to, there are two types of VPC endpoints. One is the interface endpoint and one is the gateway endpoint. So if I want a particular EC2 instance, right, to connect to a particular AWS service like EC2 or S3 or ECS and so on, right? So I can use VPC endpoint to via the private link. So using those private IP addresses, I will be directly, my EC2 instance will be directly connecting to my this thing. So if, for example, my DB instance, right, I need to copy my snapshot to my S3 device. Okay, and I am using Lambda to automate this process. Okay, so I can make use of VPC endpoint for on that part. I can use through a private link. I can whatever database these things are, whatever data snapshots are there, it can be saved to my S3 device on a scheduled this thing over the private link. Am I clear on that? Okay. Similarly, gateway endpoint will be there. Okay. So if if both of the my public and IP, public and private instance needs to communicate, okay, or needs to store some part on my S3 bucket or on an AWS services, I can create an AWS. So this is specific to one instance. This can be subject to multiple instances. Am I clear now?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So we now covered endpoint. We can use this just a second if I have any. So there is endpoint services also. You can create your own application in your VPC and configure it as a AWS privately powered service, referred to as an endpoint service. So I can use an application. I can and can create an, instead of using VPC endpoints, I can create an endpoint service to that, to those application, and connect my instances accordingly. So this is what I have a link to it. I will just forward it accordingly. So let's talk about peer connection, right? So why you got peering? Okay. So as I told you, okay, we can know now we are only work on the labs, on the hands-on demo. I only worked in one particular VPC, right? What I did was I installed one, as we saw, private to public this thing everywhere. But similarly, so in case my public web server is fails on that particular this thing, right? So I can always go with a different AZ on that particular region, okay, and connect those web instance over load balancer, okay, or else I can host one web instance over here, one instance over here, and connecting my database on that particular thing. So in case I am having two VPCs to be there. So VPC peering. So VPC peering is used when you have to connect two different VPCs. Okay. So VPC peering connection is networking connection between two VPCs that enables you to route traffic between them privately. So I am not using here. I will not be using NAT gateway or this thing, right? Internet gateway will still be using, but I will not be a specific route will be defined, okay, to connect from one instance from one VPC to instance of. So these are different. When we say VPC, they are different subnets, different CIDRs. You can see here. We should avoid to have similar CIDRs in different VPCs, okay, so because to avoid whether it is on different region or something like that, but to avoid confusions, you should always opt for different CIDRs. So instance in either VPC can communicate with each other as of within the same network. You can create VPC peering connection between your VPCs. So AWS uses the existing infrastructure of a VPC to create a VPC peering connection. Okay. There is no single point of failure for communication on a bandwidth bottleneck. Then we come to a term called AWS VPC networking components, right? So VPN is also very much important. So lots of companies are using VPN services, right, to connect to from their on-premise to the branch, this thing, or from if I am using I am using I need to work on this thing as a work from home concept. Okay, I'll always go to a secure VPN connection and connect to my on-premise data center. Okay, so VPN connections also you can connect your Amazon VPC to remote networks and users following the VPN connectivity. So what are available VPN connectivity are site-to-site VPN, client VPN, VPN Cloud Hub, third-party software VPN appliance. Okay, so you can have VPN client. So this is one type of this thing. Okay, we can have we can have an virtual gateway connecting to many other customer gateways, right? So over here we talk about VPN gateway. So when you talk about VPN gateway, as you saw over here, right? We'll have a router, and this router will be connected to a VPN gateway, and this will be connected to a customer gateway on premise, and through VPN site to site IPsec connection. Okay, or if you are required to connect site to site, we can use site to site VPN. Okay, if you require an user connecting to a particular site, you can use client VPN. Okay, and this is the cloud VPN hub that multiple customer gateways can be connected through a single VPN gateway. So what is a VPN gateway? Is the endpoint on UPC side on your VPN connection. You can create virtual private gateway before creating UPC itself. So customer gateway and Amazon UPC VPN connection links your data center to your Amazon virtual private cloud VPC. So customer gateway, it is a router or the firewall at your customer end. Okay. And also you have to there is a customer gateway in VPC also where that needs to be defined when you need to connect to the particular on-premise data center. Okay. So an Amazon VPN connection links to your data center or to your Amazon virtual private cloud. The customer is the anchor on your side of that connection. It can be physical or software appliance. Egress, when we talk about egress IP, or we talked about IPv6. If you need IPv6 connections, use egress only internet connections. So that's for the day. Okay. I'll just explain you some assignment scenarios now. Okay. So tomorrow we'll be covering, tomorrow is also an important topic. We'll be covering the CloudFront edge locations, and we'll be covering the Route 53 DNS. So VPC, CloudFront, and Route 53 are much important. Okay. And there are some other components like Direct Connect and this thing. So I'll be just posting you the thing, and all. This book also consists of the same. So if you see over here, what are the types? Okay, we can connect to VC Launch Wizard is also already mentioned over here. So, yesterday assignment was to connect until the 1 to 8 part, like connect. Sorry. So this you can see, right? 10.0. This you need to follow until 8. Yesterday was the assignment. Now we need to create a NAT gateway. You need to connect your EC2 instance over the private network through SSH. Okay, you can create NAT gateway and NAT instance. Okay, while creating database instance, you will log down to access from public server zone. So we will test to ping the database instance. So now from 1 to 11, you have to practice. Okay. So everything is mentioned over here, screen by screen, every step. So who is practicing it, right? I think so. They may be feeling it easier to follow it. Any inputs on that?
Yes, sir. I'm following this like your manual, sir, and it's really useful, sir. If I'm getting stuck anywhere, I'm again reading it from the beginning. Might be I missed any step in that, so I could find 2-3 times I've done that.
So whatever results that you want to get, it's already a screenshot is there, so you can match those results. Okay.
Yes, sir.
In some scenarios, you know, when I started this thing and I found that, okay, oh, I didn't get the particular result. Okay, I tried to do the, like I connected to the private network, right? Okay, I tried to do the workaround for it. Okay, or else in some cases was not successful. So I've already mentioned it on my on the outcome of the result outcome. So when you brush through this document, just first look the result outcome, that whether that particular lab was successful for me or no. That it's most of the things are successful. Only few, I think one or two, maybe I could not complete it. So, you know, we talked about, you know, the IP addresses, but you can use in an organization, you may have your own customer owned IP addresses also, right? So this you can use through hybrid AWS outposts. So customer owned IP, co-IP pool, okay, connecting to your premises network to AWS, and it differs on case-to-case scenario. So you can just read through it. So whatever I have done right, see, it's already provided over here. Sudo password, login as root user. Okay, what I did, sudo passwd. Okay.
Sir, I have a doubt.
Get away.
This NAT gateway and Elastic IP will be configured on this one Linux instance or Windows instance also.
When you say Elastic load balancer or Elastic or NAT
IP.
instance, you're talking about?
I'm talking about both. Both.
You're talking about NAT instance or you're talking about Elastic load balancer?
Elastic IP, Elastic load balancer, and NAT gateway.
See, it's not necessary that you use Linux. You can use Macintosh also. You can use Windows also. But I am very familiar with Linux.
No. This is my just question regarding this one. That NAT instance and NAT gateway will applicable only for Linux, or it can be for any of the platform.
Say this thing, what I showed you over here, right? Instead of having forget about it. Instead you have a Linux, you have a Windows instance, Windows environment. Similar concept will be there.
Okay. So it can be NAT gateway, NAT instance, and IP, Elastic load balancer.
When you it's better to use NAT gateway instead of NAT instance. Okay, because it is always AWS is giving you, AWS is giving you both options. Either you use NAT gateway or NAT instance. But what it recommends you to use NAT gateway. But it can be on any platform, Windows, Linux, any platform.
Okay. And sir, here I have a question regarding that licensing part. When we create a server on AWS and trying to hand over to the client, so about the license, OS license and all, it take care about it's a part of our distinct things, or AWS or Windows will take care about that licensing.
So you're talking that your client is using Windows licenses, okay, right?
Yes.
Yes. So you can always go with bring your own license concept with AWS.
Okay.
When we go with it, you can always go with you don't want to waste your licensing, right? Okay. Why want to purchase more licensing with AWS, right? You can use those bring your own licenses, but it depends which license will support and which license will not support. That cross checking needs to be done through your technical account manager.
Okay, thank you.
So I'll be posting which normally you have to go with all these things. Now I want to show you 5 minutes more because I have already. So you follow this thing in You can use Windows also, no issues. Okay, but if you see over here, right? If I go to my EC2 instance, well, I don't know whether my HTTP. If I go to my public instance, okay, copy this, okay, and try to check out what is there in that instance. Let's see. Let's say restart. But you know normally when we talk about AWS, it's very comfortable with your. It is comfortable with your other instance also. It is very much comfortable with your Linux because all your Linux and Unix, all your database and other things uses your Linux. This thing. So you practice this also. It will be helpful for you. See. So why now here I don't have to install an IIS or enable the IIS. Already an web server is already there. I just posted. I created an HTML file and started the Apache service, and I am able to access my website, web page. Welcome to the web page. So that's the reason I like to use Linux more than Windows. But it's my personal choice. Okay. But you can practice using Windows also. But I will always recommend you to go with both scenarios so that you get a little bit hands on it. So just go through the complete section, okay? And there, I'm just coming to the part of let's say okay. One is you need to go through the 4.1, 4.21 Linux instance Windows. Overview you can check it out. Okay, cost optimization is there, not easy to. I'm talking about networking. Okay. These things until 8 we have done, right? Now we have to go for 5.1, 5.2. Try this. 5.3 using VPC wizard. 5.4 using security groups and this thing. Now 5.5, right? You can try auto scaling. Before auto scaling, try load balancing. Okay. So I have covered everything, right? Endpoints. What is an endpoint service? So I've just given you high level overview. But with this book, you can always go through those concepts. Like in the load balancing, right? There is what I did. We'll now instead of having, because I had what my point was to have one instance as DB and one instance as web, right? So I created a private. I can create one more web instance in another availability zone, okay, and try this lab then using either classic load balancer or application load balancer using HTTP. Okay. So you can see over here and add one more subnet. I added one more subnet in my this thing. I'm using the new US East availability zone, and then I posted one more web service over there, having those internet gateway and other same internet gateway and this thing. I gave 10.0.3.subnet. Okay. And then I connected my elastic load balancer over there. So you can use the launch instance. Everything is using a custom VPC for launch instance. It will work out because using default VPC it didn't work for me. You say everything is screenshot, so you can follow these things. I don't have to go repeat myself on this thing. Okay. Or you don't want to use launch instance, you can just launch one more instance, one web instance on that particular that particular subnet, using that particular subnet. Okay. So for this, you for the assignment for today, right? Or for this week, you can say, because it depends on what time, how much time you may require to do this. Okay. So this 8 is required for primary 5.1, 5.2, 5.3, 5.4. Okay. Then you use 5.6. Okay. And then when you get time, you can always go for 5.5. Okay. So these are the assignments that you need to do. I will be posting on the WhatsApp group. Okay. Any questions until now? Okay, so that's end for today. Okay, let's see. Let's meet tomorrow.
Okay, sir. Sir, I'll try with that for key pairs. Okay. Shall I try creating from the beginning, sir? Like
try from the beginning and don't use existing one. Try creating new ones.
Okay, sir. Try creating. If I still get an error, I'll take
just give me the screenshot. Just
okay.
Give me the screenshot so that I can know what is the error.
Okay, sir. Okay, definitely. Sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.